Hello and welcome back, my students and friends. Today we discuss the first type of limited company called private limited company. We discuss the features, advantages, and disadvantages of private limited company. Private limited company, also known as LTD or limited company, are a type of business organization that is owned privately by a small group of people or family. We already discussed about that in topic of limited company. We will discuss the difference between private limited company and public limited company. We discussed that a private limited company is owned by a family and friends. These companies are legally separate from owner and are treated as separate entities under the law. One of main characteristic of private limited company is limited liability. This means that liability of a company owner and shareholder is limited to the amount of money they have invested in the business. If company go bankrupt or issues, a personal asset of owner or shareholder are protected and they are not personally liable for company's debt. Private limited companies are usually formed for small or to medium sized businesses and have a relatively simple structure. They typically have a board of directors that is responsible for making major decisions and shareholder base that own the company. Shareholders are not actively involved in day-to-day management of the business, but they have say in major decisions through voting rights. Private limited companies are required to file annual financial statement and other documents with the government, like example SCCP or SE, which makes them more transparent and accountable than other type of businesses structure, like example sole trader and partnership. They're not responsible for showing their accounts to government. It means that they have a much more security secrecy as compared to limited company. Overall, private limited company offer many advantages such as limited liability, simplified management structure, and increased transparency. However, they also have some disadvantages such as high cost to set up and maintain and limited access to capital compared to publicly traded company. Now we discuss the advantages of private and limited company. The first advantage we already discussed in limited company topic. The first advantage is that they have limited liability. The liability of shareholder is limited to the amount of money they have invested in the company. This means that shareholders are not personally liable for the debt and losses for the company beyond their investment. Second advantage is that separate legal identity. A private limited company is considered a separate legal identity from the shareholder, which means it can enter into a contract, own assets, and sue in its own name. Perpetual succession. Private limited company have perpetual succession, which means that company will continue to exist even if shareholder or directors change. Greater access to funding as compared to sole trader and partnership. Private limited company can raise capital by issuing shares to investors, which can help them to grow and expand their operations. Limited company number of shareholders. In private limited company can have a maximum of 200 shareholders, which allow for greater control and management of the company. Now we discuss the disadvantages of private limited company. The first disadvantage is that restriction on ownership. Private limited company cannot offer shares to public, which means that ownership is restricted to the limited number of shareholders, that are 200. Second disadvantage is greater regulations and compliance requirement. Private limited companies are subject to greater regulations and compliance requirement, which can be time consuming and costly. Third disadvantage is that limited fundraising option. A private limited company cannot raise capital by issuing shares to public, which can limit their ability to raise fund. Restriction on transferability of shares. Private limited company may have restrictions on the transferability of shares, which can limit the ability of shareholders to sell their shares. Without the engagement and agreement of one shareholder will not able to sell the share to any other one. without the getting a consent from other shareholder. If the majority shareholder refuse that you will not sell your share or transfer your share someone, then shareholder is not sell the share of his share to other some other one. So there is restriction. Lack of transparency is other disadvantage. Private limited company are not required to disclose their financial information to public, which can make it difficult for investor to evaluate the firm performance. Definitely, it is sense. There is the government regulation that you should show your accounts every year, but somehow in private limited company they will not sending their accounts to public because the shareholder are basically the family and friends, so they do not want to share their secrets to the government and public. And here we complete the topic of private limited company. In next video we will discuss the public limited company and then our topic will be closed. Thank you very much. Take care.